All right, hey everyone, welcome back. Craig with Single Length School, and as you guys can tell by the title, we're here in week 2 of Zach's training. And again, Zach is with Muscular Style. He has the YouTube page and social media sites, and I will link his YouTube page down below in the description, so be sure to check him out. Give him a follow while you're at it. And last week, we did a little bit of work on really starting him off using the single length iron. So we did a contact drill to get him used to contact and start making consistent contact. So we're going to follow up with Zach here. But Zach, first of all, welcome back. And let's start. What questions do you have for me, either from last week or questions you thought about over the week?
Awesome. Thanks for having me back. So I like to research stuff a lot, so I have several different questions. Just a little bit of background. My clubs right now, most of them are older. My oldest is a driver. It's about 7, 8 years old, up to a new wedge. So I have kind of a variety here. So one of the questions I had was, I noticed that, obviously Bryson DeChambeau uses the Jumbo Max grips. I've heard good things. I'm just wondering if, investing in those, say, new grips, is more worth it than maybe upgrading some of my clubs, as a first question.
Okay. So we know that currently you're in the F8 irons, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got the F8 irons. Now, grips versus clubs, your irons are new enough that I wouldn't worry about buying irons. Now, on the grip side, even some of your other clubs, your new wedges, your driver is a potential upgrade just because technology from 7 years ago has been improved. Possibly even if you have any club that might be over 5 years, and if it is over 5 years, I recommend upgrading the clubs just because technology comes a long way in 5 years. If it's 1 year or 2 years, you're okay. So to that end, that's what I look for when upgrading clubs. But in terms of grips, the Jumbo Max are nice, and obviously Bryson's brought them to the forefront. They're expensive. They'll run you $150, $200 depending on which model you get and what you're looking for. And if somebody is, very fond of the Arcos tracking system that Cobra sends out, then you got to go Jumbo Max if that's the style of grip you're looking for. But if you're not into the Arcos style, I just did a review over the weekend that released that there's a company called Champ Key. They don't make them quite as big as the Jumbo Max, but they do come in an oversized, which is a similar size to a Jumbo Max standard or small grip, same type of feel. And I really like them, and they're $50. So 150 versus 50. I mean, and you're not out there playing every day, playing 36 holes, spending 8 hours on the course. So you're not going to fly through grips. So to me, unless the Arcos is a big thing for you, I think there's a better option for you. And anybody that's interested in those grips, check out that review video. There's a link in there where you can pick them up.
Okay, so I mean, I do love the Arcos, so it sounds like maybe just stick with these for a while until I'm a little bit more into it. Maybe need new grips or something like that, or the ones you reviewed as well if I'm not so fond of it.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. You kind of answered my other question. My other question was, are new clubs really worth it? Most of my bag is, so my irons are 2 years old. I have a wood that's 2 years old. I do have a Taylormade 3 wood that is the 2016 M1, so it's 4 years old. My driver is from like 2012, I think. But those are the oldest. So it sounds like maybe upgrading the driver and then maybe leaving the wood for another year or two would be fine. Or would you suggest, I guess, upgrading both of them?
So no, I would recommend, your Taylormade 3 wood is going to be fine. The technology hasn't changed that much since that club's come out. The driver being from 2012, that's definitely something that, 8 years later, the technology is going to help add probably 5-6 yards, and it's also going to help create a tighter dispersion. So I think your bag's fine, with the exception of maybe that driver looking into it. And if you'd like, I can throw a link in the description to a couple of different drivers if you want to check them out and see what's out there.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I guess my last two questions that combine with that. In getting a new driver, I've seen the tour length. They're a little bit shorter. I guess, would that be better for me? And also, what shaft, or I guess, how do I know what shaft to get in a driver? I have a stiff now, but there's extra stiff and like triple extra stiff. I don't know. There's a lot of different options. I know I need at least a stiff, but how do I know to go up to the extra and or what length to get?
Okay. So those are great questions as well. In terms of the length, Cobra is the only company really right now that is offering their drivers in a shorter shaft. So they offer their regular length, which is 45.5 inches on, the F9, the SpeedZone. I'm sure whatever next year's model will be, they're going to do at 45.5. And then they also offer the tour length, which most of the time you got to buy directly from their website. I don't see a lot of vendors carry the tour length. The tour length I have, and I have long arms, so I can kind of get away with it. But I recommend for a lot of guys that, especially if you have trouble with a driver, don't be afraid to go shorter. And even if it means you have to take your club to, your local Dick's or local pro shop, have it cut down, have it re-gripped, don't be afraid to do so, because if you think about it, the reason one length works and helps get you more consistent is, especially in those longer clubs, your 4, 5, 6 irons, they're 7-iron length. So it's easier for you to control. The same idea with the driver. The shorter it is, the more control you're going to have. And a lot of guys will say, yeah, if I cut it down, I'm going to lose yards. Potentially, yes. But here's the thing. Are you really losing yards if you're finding more fairways? So if you're finding the fairway, your ball's going to roll out more than it is if you find the rough. Yeah. So I've actually seen it in a combination of factors. If you think cutting off 2 inches, yes, there's a potential of losing 5, 6, 7 yards off your drives. But you're going to find extra yardage by hitting the center of the face more and finding more fairways. So I've actually seen and worked with a couple guys where going 2 inches shorter actually made their driver a longer shot than what they were doing before, because they're able to keep it more consistent, keep it in the fairways better, and find the center of the face. Now, in terms of shaft flex, that's another great question. Somebody like you, Zach, you can kind of pick up on it based off of yardages, but if you have a way of getting into an indoor facility or, something that's going to give you your swing speed, a swing radar that you can get. I know with my super speed set, they have some radars that'll give you your swing speed over on their website. But really what you're looking at is any swing in your driver over 108, you're probably looking at extra stiff. And typically extra stiff, if you're talking about yardages, you're looking at guys that are up 290, 300 plus. If you're in that 275 to 300 range, you're probably looking at a stiff shaft. And you're probably talking club head speed with the driver of maybe 105 to 108. And then regular shaft, I'd say 101 to 105, and in that 240 to 260 range. And then anything less than that, you're looking at senior shaft. So if you can't get it to 240 and your club head speed's lower than 100, you're looking at into the senior shafts.
Okay. Awesome. And is there guess, is there like, if I hit my, say, pitching wedge a certain distance, do they do it that way as well? Or is it just mostly for the how far you hit your drivers?
I mean, it's hard to say. I
Okay.
really tell people it's going to be off the driver, for the simple
Okay.
fact that, you know, if a guy really lays into a pitching wedge, catches it a little thin, and hits it 150, well, he's going to say, "Hey, I hit my pitching wedge 150."
Gotcha.
That's not the case, because if he hits a nice smooth pitching wedge, it's 120.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I always take it off an average distance off the driver, and if you can get a club head speed number on it, that's really where it's going to go. And then just to kind of take it a step further in terms of the irons, um, if you're playing a stiffer and extra stiff in your driver, you're most likely going to be a stiff shaft in your irons. Um, Regular with regular and senior with senior is usually how it goes. Occasionally, if you're borderline, it doesn't hurt, where maybe you're just into that stiff threshold on the driver, but you really nice smooth swings on your irons. Somebody like that could get away with a stiff in the driver and regular in the irons. But it all comes down to feel, what you like, club head speed, and you know, I I wish there was a better way to do it. But honestly, to get a real best, what's best for you is to go get fitted at, Golf
Okay.
Galaxy, Dick's, PGA Superstore, somewhere like that.
Okay. Okay. No, that answers a lot of questions, I think. I mean, from what I can tell, like, especially where I'm just getting back into it, it sounds like get some decent clubs, make sure they feel right. Cause I mean, like, all my stiff shafts feel great, and then just really get more consistent. And then maybe a year or two in, look to fine tune things is kind of where it sounds like.
Yeah. And as because you're getting back into it, and really for the most part, we're treating you as a beginner golfer, not just beginner to single length. But yeah, once you start getting more consistent, and you get to a point where your scores are consistent, and you're happy with those, but there's room to improve. In a year or two, when you start playing, a couple times a week and things like that, and that score's starting to bother you, that's where you're going to want to go get fitted and actually get yourself into the right equipment.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. Appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. So let's talk about and recap real quick last week.
Yeah.
We did the magic hidden iron trick, so to speak. The
Yes.
pull the random club, and let's just make solid contact. I gave you a quick go at the end of the video, and I'm going to link last week's video up here in the corner. So if anybody wants to check it out, they can go check that out and then come back. But tell me about what happened since we last talked. How many times have you been out? What you're seeing.
Okay. So I mean, we did do this last Thursday. It's Tuesday today. So, and I was at my brother's wedding. So I've only had a couple of days where I did the drill. Actually, what I did was during my workouts, I would open my garage and then I'd have my club. So in between sets, I'd go do the drill. I did notice that the more I did it, especially without the ball, the more consistent it got. Here on the range today, I've hit probably 30, 40 balls. And I've noticed if I'm not just going through the motion, if I'm trying to hit the ball like I would before, it's not consistent. But when I focus on, putting that weight forward and moving my torso, not moving my feet, I get a lot better and a lot more consistent contact. So I just need to, I think, keep drilling that in. And I think that's really going to help because I've had some beautiful shots this morning. So.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead, get set up. And what club do you have in your hand?
I believe this is my 6-iron.
Okay. Go ahead, get set up, and hit 3 or 4, and let me just see where we are this week.
Okay. One more?
Mhm.
Okay. Oh, first fat one. My first fat one, and a lot of balls, actually.
Well, that's all right. So it looks like, you know, a lot of that's sticking with you there. I think that last one you caught that, you kind of got those legs moving a little bit.
Okay.
You know, so one of the things that, you know, we want to continue working on is obviously the drill, getting the weight forward. You know, still doing the random clubs a little bit here and there to kind of make sure everything's still consistent. But in terms of what you're doing there, everything, you're getting the weight forward, your hands are in front of the ball, which is going to help you prevent from hitting it fat. As long as you keep those legs steady and kind of take the legs out of it a little bit, I think everything looks pretty good. It looks like those first 4 out of 5, with the exception of the one fat one, looks like you caught them solid, at least from my angle.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So in terms of distance wise, you said that was 6-iron?
That was 6-iron, yeah.
Okay. What do you think your distances were there?
The best one I hit landed just beyond the 175. I don't know about how far it rolled. A couple of them were to the right, and those were probably landing like 150, 160.
Okay. So last week we talked a little bit, and as I mentioned, we wanted to get you consistent contact, and I think we're getting there right now. We're close, and so I want to have you continue working on that drill. But last week you had mentioned it, and you just mentioned it now, and you hadn't mentioned what happened when you were swinging a little bit. But I think we're having most of the balls kind of spraying to the right and slicing a little bit, correct?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay. So what I want to do today is kind of throw in a little bit of a tip and trick and a little bit of a drill for you to hopefully get it to not slice as much. And so the first thing I want you to do is go ahead and set up.
Okay.
Okay, you look good. Now, I want you to rotate your hands just a little bit back. So take your left hand and kind of turn it clockwise.
Okay. So turn it or turn just my hand?
Just your hand. Leave the club as is. I want to give you a little bit of a stronger grip.
Okay.
So turn it a little clockwise and then go ahead and re-grip and then set up and give me a swing and let me know what it does.
Okay. And you want my right hand where it normally is? Or do you want it a little stronger, so counterclockwise as well?
No, just go ahead and try to leave your right hand where it is. Let's see if that left hand takes care of this.
Okay. Perfect. That was straight. Landed about 160. So basically, I want this pointing to the shoulder. That's what it's looking like.
Yep.
Is that accurate? Topping a lot of these. Am I standing up weird?
Yeah, so what you're doing, now that you've got that grip a little bit, you were right, get that, kind of get that V in your thumb pointing towards your right shoulder. Move that ball a little bit further back in your stance. There you go. And just give yourself a little bit more knee bend. All right. And then just go ahead. And this is something I'm working on with my daughter. Get that weight forward. And you'll be surprised, but just keep that head down and a nice smooth swing.
So you want a ball behind center?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that one went slightly left. That's a little better. Slightly right. On a slice though, it's good. Perfectly straight and landed just beyond the 175.
So those last 3 you've hit, you've made pretty good contact. And now, last week we were talking about your irons. When I had asked you last week, you were talking most of them 30 yards right, some of them 10 yards left. So you kind of had a dispersion zone of 40 yards or so.
Yeah.
If you had to guess with those last 3 swings, how far apart do you think they are left to right?
The left one was actually about probably 15 yards left. The right one was about 10 yards right. So, and then the last one was dead straight. So probably 25 yards.
Okay.
Between the worst ones.
Okay. And if you think about this, when you're out there, doing this with your hands just to cut down on that slice, if you do get into a position where you're going to hook one, it is going to go further left, obviously. But what I want you to keep in mind, and I think what a lot of people at home need to keep in mind is, when you're missing by 40 yards, that's a big problem. But when you're missing by 25 yards and you're dispersion, maybe 15 yards left, maybe 10 yards right, most fairways people are going to play, your average fairway across the U.S. is about 25 yards wide.
Okay.
So think about that. Now, sometimes they'll bottleneck into the green and, things like that. But with you right now, you've got a 6-iron in your hand. So you're talking most likely that club's coming out for you on a par 5.
Yeah.
So, when we get into wedges, and maybe that's a good thing to look at, maybe grab a pitching wedge and let's see how this drill works and see if we tighten it up even more.
Okay. I guess going back to earlier on the grips, do a larger grip, will it help with this stuff, the slices and the hooks, or is it mostly just how I'm holding it and something we can just fix by changing my grip a little bit?
So it's usually more your grip and the swing path is what's going to cause a slice or a hook.
Okay.
Now, we're not really diving into getting your swing all dialed in yet, and kind of fixing your arms and your hands and things, because a lot of beginners, when they come in, they need to learn to make contact. And I see people walk away from the game because they top the ball, they miss the ball, they hit it fat. Like, it's not the fact that it's going right or left, it's the fact they can't hit the ball more than 25, 30 yards.
Gotcha.
So by getting you into solid contact, and what solid contact feels like, so from here on out, once you continue to get that solid contact, now we can work on little bits and pieces of the swing to help get you to a position where everything's going to come closer. And we're already seeing it now. When you do make good contact, your dispersion's coming in tighter. And that's what we're looking for, because now you can go out on the course, have an idea of what your game's going to do, and have an enjoyable round, even though you're new to the game. As we move forward and, we get into a little bit more serious, then we can break down the swing and, fix little things. But I think that's where a lot of guys get lost, is they just want to come out, hit the ball far, not embarrass themselves. And, by sitting there and reading this book or watching this YouTube video, they're missing the point of what's going to make the game fun. And that's good contact and hitting. Listen, I forget who said it, but they said, hey, if you hit 3 bad shots and 1 great shot, you can still make par. So if that's the case and you go out and, a brand new guy goes out and makes 2-3 pars after 2 weeks of work, I think that's going to make him feel pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's take a couple more swings. Let's remember that grip.
Okay.
And from here, it looks like you've got that ball a little too far forwards.
So here's my camera's a little behind me. Here's center. If that helps.
Okay.
Is that
Yep,
where you want
that's fine then.
Okay. Okay. That one was straight, in case you're wondering. Landed at 150. Notice that these ones, the lower ones, they go higher, but they don't roll as much as the higher lofted, I guess. So I don't know what that would have been, but. That one's probably 3 or 4 yards away from the other one. Okay. That's the first bad one.
All right, so let's talk about those 4 there real quick, Zach.
Yeah.
Those first 3 all looked really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In terms of your target line, where were they in terms of that target line?
The first 2 were probably 3 yards to the right of the 150, and the third one was probably 2 or 3 yards to the left of the 150 sign.
Okay. And then the last one.
That last one was
left.
I hooked, or yeah, that was pretty bad.
It's okay, and it's gonna happen, But if we can get you to a position where 75%, 3 out of 4, are going close to where you want them, coming in and getting back into the game, or even for beginners, if you can get 3 out of 4 shots within, let's say, a 6-yard area, a 6-yard circle, that's good. That's only going to help you get better. So, and all of those 3, excuse me, were about 150.
They were landing at 150. I don't know what they're rolling out to, but probably 155, 160, something like that.
Okay. All right. So, and, we've talked about this off camera, but, you're a bigger guy. So 150 pitching wedge,
yeah,
160, that it's going to happen. I'm not quite as big as you. I'm a little bit taller, a little bit more torque, but, my pitching wedge is a carry of 150 as well. So,
okay.
there's. Go ahead.
I was going to say I did comment this, but for reference, I'm 6 foot 250, and I was in the top 0.1% of shot putters nationally. So I'm not typical as far as rotational strength goes. I can squat and deadlift over 500 pounds a piece. So these distances aren't typical unless you're a lot better at the game than I am. So,
but it's funny because, I don't want people watching to think that their pitching wedge needs to go 150, because it doesn't. What we're trying to do, and really where you get better at the game, is putting the ball in the areas that you want them to. If you know your distances, you don't need to force more distance out of a club. But if you're out there on the course and your pitching wedge is your 120 club, well, then when you're 120, you're going to pull the pitching wedge. You should be more concerned about distance from your target. And that's what we're seeing here. And, we started off last week, your spread was 40 yards apart, some left, some right, and they were missing 30 yards to the right. Well, now today your 6-iron, we've gotten down into 20, 25 yards, and your pitching wedge, with the exception of one bad one, they were within 6 yards. And as you guys can see that are watching, all we did, because he was majority of his shots were a slice, correct?
Yeah.
And
I'd say 19 out of 20 were a slice. That were bad anyway. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what we're seeing here with a quick little grip change, strengthening or making his grip a little bit stronger and getting the V on his left hand to point to his right shoulder, we're able to cure a good bit of that slice and now actually help straighten the ball up a little bit more. So does that make sense for you, Zach?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We lost your video feed there, buddy.
Give me 1 second. I'll check it. Is that back up?
Yep, you're back.
Okay.
All right, so I kind of want to recap for everybody that's watching. Let's recap about last week, what we did, what we talked about to get you into it, and talk about this week, kind of give everybody, you know, where we are in 2 weeks. So last week, we worked on creating solid contact and working through his set of Cobra F8 one-length irons. So we did that by using the random club drill, where he just picked up a random club, set up the same, and made nice smooth swings. And he was starting to make consistent contact. You know, we talked about you having somewhat of a background in the game, but never really got on the course and really took the game seriously. So we're calling Zach a beginner here. So that was last week. And then this week, we wanted to help him straighten out his shot a little bit. He was slicing it a little bit. So all we did was took his hand, his left hand, which is his front hand, or his top hand on the club, I should say. If you're a left-handed golfer, you're going to use your right hand. And what you want to do is just kind of turn your hand clockwise if you're a left-handed golfer, or counterclockwise if you're a right-handed golfer. That's going to help straighten out a slice. Now, if you're someone that's out there that's hitting a lot of hooks, then you want to do the opposite with your hands. So if you're a beginner, just getting new to single length or one length irons, take your hands like I did with Zach. Zach went clockwise. He's left-handed. If your ball's going to the left and you're left-handed, turn your left hand, turn it counterclockwise clockwise a little bit to open up that club face. If you're right-handed, just do the opposite of what I just said with your right hand. So I'm going to have Zach hit one more for me, and I want to show you guys at home something, and I want to show Zach this as well. But Zach, what I want you to do is, instead of making that left hand a little bit stronger, I want you to make it a little bit weaker and take a swing. So move it a little counterclockwise.
Okay. So here's where I was. Here's where we switched me. So I'm going to go from here to here.
Go there a little bit. Yep. And then set up and take a swing.
I can make contact with the ball like that.
Just remember, keep those legs settled, that weight forward.
That wasn't terrible. It was much shorter, a little left.
That one went to the left, or did that one go to the right?
That one went a little left. Let me give you a little. That one, again, short. That was a little more right than the last one.
Okay. So what you're going to see, because of that hand being that way, is the ball's going to tend to want to go right. And when you have kind of a slice or a cut spin on it, chances are it's not going to go as far. So go ahead, go back to the strong grip for me and hit two more. Get that V pointed to your right shoulder.
Oh, that was beautiful. That's got to be my best one of the day. Okay. topped that one a bit, but that was still over 100 yards. I'd play that.
little topper there, but
Yeah.
can you feel a difference in your hands and what it's doing to your
Yeah.
arms?
Yeah, absolutely. When I did the week, and maybe I think people should try moving this, because when I did that week one, I couldn't feel like, I didn't feel like I had any power, and my hits were 30, 40 yards short. When I'm here in the stronger grip, I just feel, I don't know, a long time ago, I played baseball. It reminds me of that when I really wanted to hit it. It's just a more secure grip, I guess. I don't have to grip it down as hard, and my arms just do what they're supposed to. And that's the third one I've hit in that 150, 160th range. So
awesome. So your homework for this week, Zach, is going to be just continue, even sitting at home, get used to that strong hand grip.
okay.
You know, sitting down on the couch watching football game or something, just get your hand in that position, throw your other hand on it, just get comfortable with that grip, wiggle it back and forth, and then continue working on that setup that we worked on last week. So just continuation of those drills that we talked about last week. And then next week, what we'll do is we'll get into a little bit of chipping next week.
Okay.
Because that's something that, you know, when you get out on the course, for guys that are coming from variable length, that's one of the things they question a lot is chipping with single length irons. You know, for new people, it's something that they're going to need to learn too. So next week, why don't we plan on just hitting some little chips if you can get over to the practice green or even in the yard with a bucket or a net, something like that. We can work on that. But before we wrap up and finish up filming for the day, any questions from today's session?
Yeah, I guess just one last question. So that strong grip, and the changes we've made to my swing with, you know, the one detail of ball position, should that go into my driver, my woods, my shorter wedges? Should I have that stronger grip and be doing these same drills where I'm putting the weight forward and moving the torso?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, typically when you've got one problem in your game, it's across all your clubs. So if you're slicing with irons, you're probably slicing with the woods, and you're probably slicing with the drive.
Accurate. Yes.
You know, so judging by your reaction, I'm assuming that's correct.
Yes, absolutely.
So I would do that drill. You know, and you and I talked a little bit earlier beforehand, and, you know, we talked a little bit more here. I'm going to link driver down below, a good driver option for you that's, you know, not going to cost a fortune, that's going to be an upgrade from you. I'll see what Amazon has and, you know, throw the link down there for you. So when the video comes out, you can check it out, and anybody at home wants to see what I think's good for you, they can check that out as well. But, you know, keep working on that. Keep working on those drills. Next week, we're going to get into chipping. And just remember, as you go through those drills, that ball's back. Your driver, obviously, in your woods, it's going to be a little more forward, but it doesn't have to go, you know, way beyond your foot. But keep those hips steady and kind of let your upper torso and your arms do the work. You're big, strong, your rotation's there. That muscle, that core strength is there. So the more you keep your legs steady, the more consistent you're going to get.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for watching. This has been week 2 with Zach. And again, Zach's channel, Muscular Style, is linked down below for you as well. And along with that, Amazon link to the driver I'm going to suggest for him. And then, guys, stay tuned next week. We're going to come back and we're going to talk and start teaching Zach some chipping techniques. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week.